Hey everyone, welcome to Bullish AF. I am Whit Gibbs, your host, here today, joined by the one and the only Crypto Charles. Man, Charles, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I just had you on. Stoked to be on your show now.
Dude, that show was great. I had a lot of fun chatting with you, and I'm glad that we were able to get this arranged. You could come on here as well. Man, it's been a long time coming. I've watched you with your show and how you've grown it and all that you've done there. And obviously your Twitter persona is fucking hilarious.
Appreciate it.
Dude, what led you to this whole crazy world of crypto?
So I mean the standard intro is pretty much the same for everybody. I had just graduated college. I had been looking to kind of start investing my money because I was actually making some real money versus when I was in college, just working two dead end kind of, low paying jobs to pay the bills, and kind of chip away at my loans. But graduated, started making good money, and I was like, all right, I need to start investing. So I was contributing to my 401k a little bit. And I was working at a bank as an analyst, and they're like, we want you to stay up to date on financial news. And so, I just read the news every morning, try to see what's going on in the world. And my buddy, a while before this, had talked about him buying Ethereum. I didn't have the money, so I didn't even look into it. And then I saw an article, I think it was Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan was investigating blockchain technology. Nothing about Bitcoin, but I was like, I've heard that term before. So I did a little bit of research, and I was like, okay, if they're getting into blockchain technology, that's kind of Bitcoin's underlying technology. Maybe I should get into this. Maybe there's some money to be made. And bought my first Bitcoin. I think it was like $700. Bought another one very shortly after that for 800. And I think it actually may have been a little bit before that I had bought some Ethereum, and I had just watched it tank in value. And so I was like, dude, this crypto bullshit, it's a scam. Like I swear it dropped like 50% in value over like 2 months or something like that. But I bought some
Like
Bitcoin.
$4 to $2.
No, it was like, I think it was like 8 and 12 down to like 7 or something, like something ridiculous like that. And I was just like, I hadn't put that much money into Ethereum. And so I was like, all right, this Bitcoin thing seems a little bit more, reasonable. So I bought one, and it pretty much immediately went up from 700 to $800. And I was like, this is dope. So I bought another one. So that was kind of my intro into, I guess, crypto. But then this crazy world, crypto, Twitter, this whole community was a little bit after that. For anyone who doesn't know, there's a forum called Biz on 4chan. It's a place where people kind of came together and started talking about cryptocurrency. And I think it formed from another thread or another discussion forum. And they're like, we need a spot for you guys to talk about pretty much crypto, but it's all business really. And then from there, it was kind of, I'd see a lot of people talking about crypto Twitter, and that's when I jumped on there. And it's been a wild ride since then.
All cocaine and hookers since then, right?
Yeah, that persona has slowly developed as I've, delved into madness because of this industry. And it's a necessity at this point, not even fun anymore. But yeah, that's me. That's me today. That's how I kind of got here to where I'm at.
That's hilarious. So, it sounds like from it, you were, early is a relative term, right? But you started accumulating coins, let's say a year, maybe two before you became active on crypto Twitter. Is that about right?
Yeah, I'd say it was about a year. I think it was mid 2017, late 2017, maybe even early 18. I'm not really sure when I started posting more regularly on crypto Twitter. And at first it was just, follow all the big accounts, kind of try to take in as much information as possible.
Yeah.
And then I started contributing to the discussion after I kind of started to find my voice, started to realize that, other people were going through the same stuff that I went through very early on. And that's kind of where my posting started. And then as the following has grown, I've kind of become more comfortable with people and online. I'm not really a big social media guy. I don't have a Facebook. I don't have an Instagram. I don't have any of that bullshit. And so, talking online and building this kind of community online was something a little bit new to me. And so just slowly over time, I've kind of become more comfortable. You guys probably know some of the stuff that I'm posting on Twitter is a little bit out there, if you know my Twitter. Um, and that's just been really fun because, I don't get to talk about this stuff with people in my circles, really. There's a few people who are kind of interested. You get those texts every once in a while.
Hmm.
Hey, so what's up with this cryptocurrency thing? There's no one who, there's not a group of people that really contribute a lot of their time and spend a lot of their time, talking about it, learning about it, etc.
Well, I mean, you're in a good spot out there. I mean, geographically, right? You've got, I know Wendy O is not too far away. And there's a pretty good scene in SoCal. Uh, Recently, I mean, it looked like from what's going on Twitter that you got a visit from everyone's favorite lonely college student, Cryptoons.
Yes,
Uh,
he was great. He is a lot of fun. We spent the night just drinking, trying to get into some trouble. And yeah, you're right. There is a decent community out here. But to be honest with you, those meetups are kind of weird. Everyone's stiff. It's the first time
yeah,
meeting people. Everyone's trying to kind of be professional, but like
sure.
not at the same time. Until you really meet people a couple of times, then you can really get comfortable with them. Like I hang out with Nye and Nako's semi often. I've gone hiking with Bella a couple times. And you really start to get comfortable with these people. But those meetups where you're like meeting a lot of the crypto people, it's stiff, it's boring. You don't talk about real life. It's all, oh, hey, what's up with crypto? So
Yeah.
I try to stay away from those as much as possible. But have found, a decently small group of people that hang out semi regularly, I'd say.
So when you go to these meetups, do you introduce yourself as your Twitter handle?
Yeah, no, I don't. Not
Hi, I'm
Twitter
Crypto
handle.
Charles. It's nice to meet
Yeah,
you.
no, it's just hey, I'm Charles, and like it's funny. Nick Core, we met
Mhm.
at one of the conventions in LA, and like 6 months later, I dropped, I mentioned it on Twitter, and he was like, "What the fuck, man? You didn't tell me your name. Like, you didn't tell me you were Crypto Charles." I was like, "Do I need to? Like, I just said, hey, you were cool. Like, we talked for a minute. I don't think it would have been too much different if I dropped my handle."
Yeah.
And then I think we were hanging out at Nye's place, and who was I with? I can't remember who I was with, but they're like, "Oh yeah, this is Crypto Charles." I'm like, "Please don't say that shit. Like that stuff makes me cringe. Like we're all just people. We're having a conversation. No need to bring like Twitter handles into it or anything like that." So I try to stay away from it.
I mean, you're crypto famous though, man. I mean, eventually someone's gonna ask you for an autograph, right? Like
No, that is never going to happen.
the only thing is it's all a bunch of dudes, so it would just be some awkward
I
conversation
can't
that led
leverage
up
it
to
for
that.
anything. Yeah, exactly.
It's funny you mentioned Core. We used to do meetups in Miami, and actually the first one that we did, Core was one of the people that showed up. He and I connected at a conference in Miami when he lived down there. And then there's a crypto YouTuber named Crypto Love. He was there. And then Jake Canfield, who I know a lot of people threw a lot of shade at a while back, but he's actually a really nice guy. So the four of us started this meetup in Fort Lauderdale at like a bar, and it didn't like the first one was just us, right? Um, and then it was really weird because I don't have a big follower count compared to these guys. Like there's, and it's just hilarious. We'd see people come in, and the minute that they realized who people were on Twitter, it was like groupies, and
It's
we
weird.
would I'd laugh about it all the time. I would laugh
It's
about it all the time.
weird. Like
Yeah.
the first meetup I ever went to was with Nye and Nico's, and I can't remember the guy's name who was throwing it, but he like full blown announced Nye.
Nah. Yeah.
This is Crypto Shill Nye, I think his name was at the time. And
Yeah.
people are like fangirling over Nye, and I was like,
Yeah.
"What is going on? Like, this is weird. Am I hanging out with like fame and royalty here? Like,
Royalty.
yeah, it's an odd scene. People kind of
Yeah.
idolize others on Twitter because of their follow count and kind of who they portray themselves as, and
Y-
I find
You
it
know,
odd.
it's funny though, because as you get to know everyone, I mean, everyone's just a normal, like generally dorky, somewhat socially awkward
Yep.
person, right? Like everyone that I've met. I mean, we're all basically living our entire life, facing a computer, trading magic internet money, or building businesses around that industry. And there's just it's I don't know. I've met some of my best friends through this, right? That meetup with Core and with those other guys, it turned into some great relationships. Um, it's funny. I mean, I hope that things can open back up so we can have the ability to interface again. Like conferences, I think are. I mean, if you're a company and you're going to a conference, it's a total fucking waste of money. But if you're an attendee, they're a blast and they're a great place to go and network and have a good time and meet people for sure. Uh, I miss that. I miss the social interaction.
Right. We need more of that. Now that I kind of am a lot more comfortable with people online, I think they would be a lot more fun. The first one, I was kind of still developing my name and my brand. So it was just like I hung out with like two people, didn't really talk to many other people. And like you're saying, we're all kind of socially awkward nerds, and that is the case. Like
Yeah.
I've said it before on Twitter, like the coolest dude on crypto Twitter is like still by far the dorkiest dude in like the general finance sector. And people forget that sometimes.
Absolutely. And before we get too far off topic, I do have to ask, what the fuck was up with those shoes you were wearing in that picture? I know
Yo,
Birch.
are we
I know
gonna do this
Birch
right
made a
now?
comment. Birch made a comment, and, and then I was like, I looked at them. I'm like, wow, wow. I mean, I'm old. I'm old. Maybe that's fashionable. I missed it. But
No,
when I
no, 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 no. It's not, and I got torn apart for it. Those are my Vans from 6 years ago that I've just beat to shit. I go hiking with them. Like they're the most comfortable pair of shoes I own, and probably like one of three pairs that I'll wear out of the house. And so they're very beat up. They're not fashionable. Like I got torched for them. I don't get the sneaker community and buying $500 pairs of shoes. I got two pairs of nice hiking boots, a pair of regular boots, I would say, two pairs of Vans, and some dress shoes that I don't wear anymore. I don't get the $1,000 Jordans and shit like that. It's just not me.
I'm with you on the sneaker culture thing. You're close with Nico Z, however you say his name. And he's obviously, full blown sneakerhead,
Yeah.
always posting the hottest shit online. And I mean, they look great, right? It's just I can't pull them off. I've never
It's
been
not
able
me.
to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
not me. I got my Vans. Those are all rock pretty much.
interesting, man.
But I got
Well,
I got torn apart for those.
yeah. I mean, I felt like we should start like a GoFundMe or something to
Oh,
get you a new
they're
a new
comfortable, man.
pair.
Like I think people, forget about comfort sometimes in the name of fashion. And I'm wearing sweats right now. I cruise out of the house in my sweats. I got those ripped Vans and usually a tank top because I'm in Southern California. So I am all about comfort.
So, dude, since I moved to Europe, I rarely wear shoes at all. Like we've got like a plot of land, we've got a big garden that we share with our other family members that live on the same plot of land, and like I just don't wear shoes anywhere. Like, was in the woods earlier. Funny enough, went in the woods because my wife pulled me back there to tell me that there's like a huge patch of Amanita muscaria that are growing wild behind our house. If you don't know what those are like the fly agaric mushrooms that Joe Rogan always talks about, that are like the reason why religion exists and why Santa Claus exists. And they're the mushrooms that Mario ate to change size and like all of this stuff. So my wife pulls me back here and she's like, look what I found.
Oh God.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, man. I've really enjoyed this whole like natural thing coming from Miami and the city and being out here in the country. It's going to be really difficult to go back. And right now, like you mentioned, I think I have one pair of shoes. Like
Yeah.
I have a pair of Allbirds that I just like beat to death. And then a pair of shoes that I work out in. But other than that, shoes are fucking overrated, I think.
Exactly. I told
Yeah.
Tunes that I go to the grocery store barefoot and he was just dumbfounded by it.
Wait, do you
Like
really?
I live on the beach. Like it's a pretty standard
Okay.
thing, especially the closer you get to the beach where you're just like in your board shorts and tank top, like walking around barefoot. They're very okay with it. Like the farther you get away from the beach, my old place was a little bit farther. And so I generally wear shoes there. But as soon as you get close to the beach, you can walk around pretty much anywhere barefoot.
Have you been down there your whole life? Like, is that home? Is that where you've
Y-
been since
So
before college?
yeah, I grew up down here, went to college, up at UCSB. So on the beach again. I can't get away from the beach. It's just never going to happen in my lifetime. And stayed up there for a while. And then I got a good group of friends that I've kind of found over the years that are very similar in mindset that I didn't really find through college. There was more the drinking, the partying scene, and after we graduated, everyone still wanted to do that. And I was like, guys, like let's go camping, let's go surfing, let's go be outside. And they're always like, yeah, whatever, let's do it. And it just never happened. And so I moved back down to be closer to my friends who are more active, willing to go on hikes, willing to hit those weekend camping trips when they have time off. Like I think in 2 weekends or so, we're going up to Yosemite. Weekend before that, we
Nice.
were in Joshua Tree. So we try to be outdoors a lot. And that was just something that I didn't really find in my college friends. It was more the drinking, booze, and partying, having fun, which is where my Twitter persona might come from.
I mean, there's definitely some like twinges of realism in the things that you say, right? I mean, and we all have I'd say history. So a lot of people I think relate to your tweets more than they'd care to admit. That's why people gravitate to them because you say shit that's like, oh yeah, I can
Remember
remember
that.
at the time. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. And
So
like people always ask me, like, how do you come up with this shit? And I'm like, it's like most of my real life. I put a little bit of a like comedic spin on it, but for the most part, like I'm doing something during the day and I'll just tweet about it. And like it's stuff that I'm doing on a pretty regular basis. So, for all the people who can relate, I'm sure they have gone through it at one point, or else the content, like you're saying, wouldn't be relatable. People wouldn't be kind of gravitating towards it.
for sure. Yeah. And look, man, you've done a great job of building a following, and obviously the podcast had a big part of that in that. Why did you decide to start a podcast?
I mean, two reasons. I feel like a lot of people, I was just talking to Anai about this, I feel like a lot of people say that they start their podcast for all these different reasons, and the money aspect doesn't ever get thrown around. I think that was one of the big reasons that I started. I was looking to kind of work in this industry. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to be in this industry, I need to be making money. So that was one of the reasons. And then the like, I'd say more important reason, but I mentioned it second because I feel like the money part gets ignored a lot of the time. The second and most important reason I would say is that I wanted to talk with kind of the people that were pushing this industry forward. You can talk to originally, it's just all entrepreneurs, crypto entrepreneurs.
Right.
Um, Originally, I did that because I wanted to talk to these people. And then it kind of moved into trading as well because I've kind of, listened to what my audience wants. Uh, and then on top of that, I kind of just wanted to learn from these guys so that I could build my own businesses out. I was running my Amazon business, or had started it up pretty much the same time that I started the podcast. So it's been, close to 2 years now. I think
Wow.
maybe Amazon was a little bit before that. But I wanted to learn, how to grow a business. I wanted to learn how to grow my social media following and how to kind of network with these people properly. So it
Sure.
was one to help me out, two to kind of push other people in this industry to do the same. We're in a very emerging industry, and I feel like there's so much up for grabs, and people kind of just let it, pass them by. I was talking with my dad. He said, when the internet was first a big thing, he just spent all day researching, trying to learn as much as he could about it. But what he didn't do was pull the trigger on starting any kind of business.
Mm.
And I think that's one of his biggest regrets because he now works, odd sales jobs here, there. He's kind of found something more stable now, but he says that was his biggest regret. And I don't want people to look back at this and see, millions, billions of dollars being made and businesses being built from the ground up and say, shit, man, I passed this passed me by completely.
Yeah.
So, it's intro stuff, and it's kind of to make that leap from working the 9 to 5 to maybe something on the side or maybe a full-time business down the line. Because I couldn't do the 9 to 5. I worked at a bank for 2 years. I quit. I took a full year off. I came back to it, said, all right, I got my kind of traveling out of the way, finding myself, blah, 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 bullshit. And I was like, all right, let's get back to work. Let's make some money. Let's start a career.
So
I
wait,
was
hold on, hold on. Let's not blow past that. So the blah blah bullshit of finding yourself. So anyone that's out there, let's say, and they feel like that's the case, right? Like that, I just need to take some time to find myself. What's your advice to those people?
I don't know if I can give the best answer on this because I eventually did end up returning to that job. So it wasn't anything that I learned then that I was like, okay, I'm not going back to a job. I need a different career path or something like that. Um, it was really when I was at my job that I kind of just over the course of days, weeks, months, the year, 2 years or so that I was at the second job, did I kind of come to realize that I hate this. Um, but I mean, when I took that time off, I spent a lot of time alone, just kind of doing my own thing, trying to figure out, what makes me happiest, kind of exploring new hobbies, potentially learning about new businesses, seeing what I wanted to do. And I just found that, my free time was very important to me. Spending time with people that I care about is very important to me. I'd spend a lot of time with my family, with my friends, out in nature. And so that on top of the fact that, I was sitting at this job 8 hours a day, probably doing 3 to 4 hours of work. What really pushed me was I'm not utilizing my, 16 hours that I'm awake every day to its fullest potential.
Sure.
Uh, and so I started those businesses. And as they started to take up more of my time after work and I started making more money from them, I realized if I had those 8 free hours a day, I could build something much bigger than what I've got going on right now. And eventually I will have that free time to come and go as I please. So now it's, I can pick up, go where I want, do what I want. Most of my work is online. And I think that's what really pushed me to this industry is we can do this all online. You're sitting where you are. I'm sitting in my house right now. We're having a conversation. I can do this from anywhere. I went on a road trip, was recording podcasts from the road. And so going back to the original question, it was very much, figuring out what really mattered most to me.
Hmm.
And I think that was my time, living kind of on my own time, which is what I know a lot of entrepreneurs say. But at the end of the day, some people are very much about, I'm going to make as much money as possible. I don't care how I do it. I'm going to start any business I can to really make as much money as possible. And I
Yeah.
kind of went into stuff that will free up my time so that I can spend it doing or being with the people that I care about.
It's very astute, right? I think the advice that most people never get is that time is more important than money, right? And both are currencies, but you can make more money, you can't make more time. The best advice I ever got when I was younger, somebody, I forget who it was, they said, look, make a list of the 20 things, if time and money were of no object, write down the 20 things that you want to make sure that you accomplish before you die. And I mean, everything from, getting married or having kids or career goals or monetary goals or, travel goals, right? Like everyone starts a bucket list when they realize that, oh shit, life is escaping me and I haven't really done anything. But this is, looking forward as opposed to like the best years are behind me. And now I'm just like racing to the end, trying to get as much done as possible. And, that's something where it shaped who I was, right? The finding yourself thing for me has always been a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, it's tough.
I just, I never had the option to do it, right? Like I didn't save like I should have saved through college. And when I got my first couple of jobs, um, and it was until I'd started businesses, I didn't really have any, like, I didn't have any money to manage. Right. So it was always kind of learning it as I went. And then by the time there was the ability to do such things, like I was already so in the mode that, I mean, like even still, like, right now where you're at, if somebody was like, hey, take a year off, right? You're gonna be like,
No, I
there's no way,
can't.
right? Like it's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
not gonna happen. So it's always interesting. I love hearing other people's perspectives on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, see, for me, it's like I still put in, very long days. I'm still working some days, 10, 12 hours a
Hmm.
day, and those days suck. But it's the days where I can just say fuck it to all of it and do as I please. That's more important to me. Like I will gladly work 10 hours a day for 6 weeks straight and then be able to just say, hey, I can go take a month off, like if I want, or I
Hmm.
can take tomorrow off if I want. Whereas I
Yeah.
couldn't really do that at a traditional, quote unquote, traditional job. But going back to that, creating a list, man, I wish I had something sage and wise to say about it, but I'm young, I'm 26 years old. I don't really have that experience yet, I would say. I'm still figuring it out as I go. But I think what I have been able to do that I think a lot of people struggle with is, I've really, really found what makes me happiest. And like, I've made those a priority. I think everyone can say, yes, I love spending time with my family. I love doing X, Y, or Z, but they kind of don't prioritize it at the end of the day. I said, these are the things that are important to me. I'm going to do whatever it really takes to put those at the top of my list. And I think I am working harder than I ever did at any job. I was working 2 jobs going to school. I still think I'm working harder now than I was then, but it allows me to kind of put those things at the top of my list that are very important to me.
That, yeah, I mean, dude, when you work for yourself, your boss is always a slave driver, right? Like, you know what I mean? Because there's no chill. Like, you're an ambitious person doesn't need anyone to tell them what to do. You wake up. Like my first meeting this morning was at 4:30, right? It's
Psycho.
10:30 for me right now, right? And like I'm fucking pumped. Like I'm not like
You're not dreading any of it.
life is exciting, right? Like
Yeah.
because it's all my choice. And I think that that's something that everyone should get to experience. The Dude, it's fascinating to me to hear kind of your mindset and how you're unpacking prioritization. One of the things that stood out to me about you in one of our earlier conversations, and it's like it's a successful person's trait, I mean, you're quick to say no to shit. Like if something doesn't fall in line with your priorities, you don't have a problem saying no. And that's a key trait for success. A lot of people are people pleasers, right? They struggle with saying no to things and people and situations and going out or whatever the fuck. Um, but I mean, that was something that stood out to me. God, it was probably months ago, where I'd asked you something. You're like, yeah, nope, not going to do that right now. And that's something that it takes training to be able to like come around to that. And that stood out to me because it took me
It's
years to learn that.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a work in progress. I still have a hard time doing it, but it is something that you definitely need to prioritize, especially I found, in this industry, especially because everybody has something, everybody's working on something, everyone wants to kind of bring you into something,
Yep.
especially as you kind of start growing and showing people that, hey, I'm killing it, it's very easy for other people to come in and be like, I want to work with you. You're doing really well. I'm doing really well. Let's work together. Let's create this synergy. When you reached out to me, I was like, fuck, this sounds awesome. But at the end of the day, I really had to, rein it in a little bit and be like,
Yep.
I have, my hands are full. I have a lot of stuff that I'm working on and I do need to prioritize those. So, I mean, for anyone listening, I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've struggled with in this industry is being able to tell people no, because at the beginning I was just so wide-eyed and eager and I bit off more than I could chew, to be honest. And it did take a while for me to kind of rein that in.
Yeah. Oh, it's, I mean, dude, hats off to you for that. So you start the podcast, you grinded for a while, right? Like
Yeah.
it was something where like that whole like bamboo analogy that people throw out there, that's cliche as fuck. It's true. Like anyone who is watching your progress, the show was great. It
It was
launched
bad.
in,
It was
no, it
bad at the
wasn't.
start. It was.
No,
That's the
no,
thing.
it wasn't, dude. It was great. It was what
I
it needed to
appreciate it.
be. Those short interviews were perfect. You would do like these like 30-minute interviews with business leaders, and it was filling a gap, right? Like there was a guy who used to do podcasts. His name was Crypto Sky, and Crypto Sky had a similar format, but it wasn't the quality that yours was. And his questions, he was a bit younger, a bit less experienced in business, so his line of questions were a more surface level. So when you launched yours, it was like a 2.0 version of that, and then it was just like watching you progress and like find your voice, find your style, move into something that was uniquely yours. It was really cool to see, but I mean, you did it in a bear market, right? Which is fucking,
Tough.
dude.
I mean,
So
so really,
yeah,
really quick before we get into it, just for anyone who's listening, I recorded 2 episodes a week. I was putting them out every single week for like 4 or 5 months straight. And I just was not seeing the traction that I wanted to see. So for like 3 or 4 months after that, I stopped putting them out. I almost gave up on it completely. And it took me a couple months to be like, no, fuck this. Like, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to up the production quality. I'm really going to do, more research with my questions, find proper guests, actual leaders of industry, not to speak down to anybody who came on early in the show. But like you're saying, I was very much finding my voice at the time. And I almost gave up on it. If it hadn't been for a few people in this industry who had talked to me after I stopped putting them out, the show probably wouldn't exist today. So I'm really glad that I took that time off to figure out if it was what I wanted to do. And then I hit it hard when I came back.
Yeah, man. And the growth was there. Like when you came back, it was like a rocket, right?
That's when I really saw it pick up. When I hit it hard and I was like, I'm going to dedicate myself to this. That's when things really started picking up.
And we talked about this on your show when we last spoke. There's a ton of content out there. Very few people do it the way that it needs to be done, right? Like I think there's a lot of people that do, decent content. They have okay conversations. Production quality isn't where it really needs to be. It's getting better across the board, I would say, but there was a leveling up in 2019 to 2020 that you were a big part of, because I think enough of us realized there was too much shit out there. There was just too much shit, and like everyone's asking the same first question. A lot of the conversations sound very similar. So how do you differentiate? You can only really differentiate from overwhelming people with content and making it of a high quality. What does your process look like? Like you record a show, right? How far ahead are you recording? Are you doing these like 2-3 days before you release? What does your editing process look like? Let's talk a little bit about that in case there's anyone that's looking to get into the space.
Okay, so this is not going to be helpful for any of them because I am so all over the place with this one, especially recently. I've kind of started a couple other ventures or projects, and some of my time is not focused on this; it's focused elsewhere. So I've kind of gotten behind on it, to be honest with you. There are some episodes that I record the day before. I edit the audio. I pass the video editing off to Nate Bag. I don't know if you know Nate Bag. Huge shout out to Nate Bag. He's my video guy now. And he'll have them ready for me next day. And I'm recording, through OBS. I just drop it right into Audacity. And you can very quickly clip and edit things together. There's no real crazy audio, tweaks that I do. So that's very easy. But when I was very serious about it, when it was one of the only things on my plate that really mattered, when I was trying to get it, up and running, was I had at one point like 3 months worth of interviews stacked up, ready to go, had cleaned them up, polished them, really made them sound nice and crisp. And I would just slowly record more episodes and just drop them at the end, saying, all right, you're going to be on in 2 months. I know we just recorded, but you're going to be on in 2 months. And then slowly over time, people would start harassing me like, hey man, when's my episode going to come out? And I just didn't need that stress in my life. So I brought it down to about a month, 2 weeks to a month or so. So that I've got, anywhere from 4 to 8 episodes that I had up, ready to go. And people were a lot, I guess, happier with that. They'd be like, okay, I can wait a month to get dropped because I know you have your scheduling. And so that was kind of the sweet spot. Was I wanted at least 4 to 8 episodes recorded, ready to go. And I was still continuing to reach out, get new guests, have them on. But what I've come to realize is it's a relatively small industry. There are certain people who don't want to associate with my brand. I've really kind of narrowed it down to a small select group of people. And so on my end, reaching out is starting to get more difficult. And then there's always the people who say, I don't want to do podcasts. I love the trading episodes, but a lot of traders don't want to do podcasts. They don't want to give away their alpha, their secrets. A lot of the big businesses don't hear back from them because, like I said, they don't want to associate with my brand.
Sure.
And then there's the scam coins, the people who started their business yesterday who want exposure, who are all reaching out to me, who I have to turn down because I don't want to have shitty quality or shitty content on my show.
Mhm.
And so it's really, really narrowed down to a select few people that I'm really trying to have on that fit my criteria. And if everything were to go right and I'd get it back to where I wanted it to be, it would be record a podcast 2 weeks out, take the time to edit it, pass it off to my video editor. If not, DaVinci Resolve, I was using it for a while before Nate came on. You can very easily drop intros, bulks of the episodes, and any kind of outro for anyone who's trying to start some video content. That worked well enough for me. There wasn't too much cutting, or editing. It was just, me having a conversation and getting uploaded. So I don't know if that was helpful at all, but that's kind of my process now.
All good tips. So, have there been episodes that you've recorded where afterwards you've been like, man, that conversation was terrible and you just didn't release
Yes.
it at all?
One or two. There's a specific influencer that not many people like, who I recorded an episode with. Recording got messed up. We tried to reschedule, and after it, I was like, I just don't want to do this episode. I think there's one other one that needed some heavy editing, and I was just like, it's not worth my time.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I'm pretty conscious about, if I'm going to have someone on, it's an episode I want to put out. But what's been a little bit rocky is I'm not very well researched with some of these episodes because I need a guest, very last minute. I say, hey, I've got, an episode that I need to get out on Thursday. It's Tuesday. Who wants to come on? And normally my process is, do a day of research or a couple hours of research, put together some, I'd say, well thought out questions. But sometimes I get dropped in there and I kind of have to go on the fly. And it's tough because, I don't run these businesses. I'm not in that field. And so when someone comes on who's just talking, way above my head, sometimes I struggle with, how do I have this conversation with you when you're speaking a foreign language to me almost?
Right. Yeah.
It's tough.
True. Yeah. So we had a podcast that we'd recorded in one of our earliest episodes of Hash Rate Podcast, and someone on the show repeatedly said Donald Trump can suck my dick. And after that
That's
episode,
aggressive.
we really struggled to get guests on. Like, I would reach out to people, and we ended up pulling that episode offline. And from then on, we were very conscientious of how things came across. So we have probably 10 episodes that we'd recorded as Hash Rate Podcast, whether it was the group of guys or some of the streams that we did, that we ended up pulling off just because they got messy. Like this year, we did a St. Patrick's Day stream.
Oh God.
And it was recorded, and I was in quarantine in Latvia by myself, right, on St. Patrick's Day. And then everyone else is in respective area. We have a couple of Irish people, someone in New England, someone in Slovakia, and we all just literally got bombed on this stream. And we're only for 4 hours, right? And I go back and watch it the next day, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to edit this down to an hour. And I'm watching, I'm like, this just can't ever be released. There's no salvaging this. Like, at the end of the stream, the guy in Boston, who's a great friend, like, his kids, like, they're older kids, but they came onto the stream and they're having conversations with a couple of the other guys. I had left already. I was like, this is like, I can't do this anymore.
Too much for me.
Yeah. But anyways, it's for me, it's always crazy to look back on some of the content that's been created in the past and to see the evolution. And I think you've been a great example of how someone can just start. Like, don't worry about being right. Don't worry about being perfect. Just start something and improve as you go.
100%.
And dude, you've crushed it. You really have.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, I just want to double down on that really quickly because I look back at my first episodes and I hate them. I'm like, the questions I were asking, it's so standard. It was the same every episode. I wasn't well researched. The quality was garbage. And that's okay. I just kept pushing on. Some viewers, they dropped off. I picked up new viewers. And as the quality kind of picks up, people will check back in. I have people who say, hey, I listened to your first episode. Stop listening after that. I'm like, that's cool. And then I'm like, maybe you should check out some of the newer stuff. Like, the quality is much better. Everything's kind of picked up. The guests are better.
Right.
People are, giving me much better feedback. And they'll circle back and they're like, wow, it's night and day. If you listen to that first episode versus this last one, like, the progress has been insane. So for anyone out there, like, struggle through it at the beginning, try to be as on point as possible at the beginning. But over time, you come to realize you were just like, you missed the mark a little bit, but that's okay, because you can just make little tweaks over time, and eventually it becomes what you want it to be.
Boom. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap things up on, Charles. Honestly, it was great getting to have you on the show, and I'd love to, any parting words that you have, share them, let everyone know where they can find you, all of that fun stuff.
Yeah. So, I did just want to mention one more thing for anyone who's trying to put out any kind of serious content. It's very easy to get dragged into the degeneracy of the industry. But like you were saying, you had to pull episodes. Remember, this is, serious business. There are people investing and making millions and billions of dollars. Like, if you want to start any kind of content, make sure that you're sticking to it. My podcast is very different than my Twitter. They're both kind of a mesh of who I am. But what I struggle with, like I was saying, is, separating the two completely and having these kind of professional conversations and professional people on the show, because of kind of the voice that I've created for myself on Twitter. So really, really find your niche, find what you're going to be doing, and stick to it. And that's, I guess last bit of parting advice for anyone who wants to find me, since I get to plug all my stuff. You can search crypto entrepreneurs just into Google. You can get pretty much every podcasting platform. Also on YouTube, if you want to watch the video interviews, I've been pushing for that. And then Twitter handle, I'm a lot of fun on Twitter, in my opinion. It's CryptoCharles__. There are two of them, so I think I'll come up if you just put in one, but there are two of them, so come have some fun on Twitter.
I wonder if is it just to add some lines to your name? Is that what was?
No, CryptoCharles was taken. CryptoCharles_ was taken, but I needed to have crypto in there because I was Charles the ETH, but that's not going to capture enough of the newbies, and I got to dump on those guys eventually. So,
there we go.
Some non-financial advice to end the show that you might need to cut out. I don't know.
It's all good. We run a disclaimer after this. So
perfect. There we go.
Dude, thank you so much for coming on, Charles. This was awesome.
It was a blast, man. Thank you so much.
Hey, my pleasure. And to all of the viewers out there of Bullish AF, thanks for tuning into the show. We'll be back very soon. And until then, everyone out there, stay bullish. Thanks for watching this episode of Bullish AF, a Hash Rate Media production. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing for more great content like this every day of the week. In addition, feel free to leave a comment below and let us know who you'd like to see on the next episode of Bullish AF. Also, if you head over to hashrate.com, you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter, Difficulty Adjustment. Every Wednesday morning, we provide you with the latest news and information on Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and mining. Plus, each week, one newsletter subscriber will be selected at random to receive a free Ledger Nano S cryptocurrency wallet. So go ahead and sign up today. Who knows, you may be the next lucky winner. Want more from Hashrate? Go ahead and follow Hashrate TV on Twitter. It's the easiest way to keep track of our newest content all in one place. That's at HASHR8_TV. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you very soon. Please remember that all content appearing on this or any other Hashrate channel is strictly for informational and entertainment purposes only. You should not construe any such information as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Consult a licensed financial advisor before investing yours or anyone else's money.